How's it going, everybody? This is Zach with Military Mortgage Advisors, and today I have Josh Talia joining us from Columbus, Georgia. He is going to be discussing with me kind of pros and cons of what we're seeing with the 50-year mortgage. It has been announced that it may be coming to life. It's not official yet in 2025, maybe 2026, that Americans will have access to a 50-year mortgage. But Josh, how you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Also, happy Veterans Day, man. I know that was a big thing on why you got into mortgages and how you became the VA loan guy.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's been out for 4 years now, almost to the day. So my 4-year mark is November 14th. So yeah, it's pretty nice. I don't like to go celebrate all the free food because I hate standing in line, but it's great for people that are willing to do it. So thank you.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
sweet,
I
man.
know. Go ahead.
No, I know we were talking about this probably for about a good 20, 30 minutes yesterday. And I think it's the talk of our town, the talk of our industry. But before we dive into it, like say a little bit about who you are, where you're at, everything like that.
So I'm Josh Talia. I'm with Coldwell Banker, Kennan and Parker over in Columbus, Georgia. Um, really just kind of a family man. I like doing real estate because it affords me an ability to provide for my family and make sure that I'm able to also be there for all the big family events. So that was my big motivation on getting into real estate was just trying to make sure that I could have a great work-life balance.
Awesome. Awesome. And you've been in real estate about 4 or 5 years now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, time flies.
Five? Yeah, yeah. It
Hmm.
really does, man.
Yeah.
Really, really
Yeah.
does.
So let's kind of dive into it on what we were discussing earlier, offline. Like the 50-year mortgage is a huge talk of the town right now. Um, Standard mortgages, for people that don't know, is you can have terms at 10 years, 15 years, 20, 25, or 30. The most standard one is going to be a 30-year mortgage for most Americans. And the concept of a 50-year mortgage is appealing to some because it's supposed to boost some homeowners back into the market. But tell me kind of, what do you feel about that starting out just from there? Do you feel like it will boost homeowners or home buyers back into the market?
Uh, I, I, I do think it'll boost home buyers back in the market. I'm mildly apprehensive about it because I think it would be catastrophic if we had a flood of buyers like we did a couple years ago. It created a massive imbalance, and um, and really it became a struggle. Even if you sold your home, goodness gracious, what were you going to do to buy one? I really think that it does have a lot of positive benefits to offer as far as the 50-year mortgage, though.
Okay. So concerns are that it's going to flood us back with a bunch of home buyers now who have either been sitting on the sidelines, they couldn't afford the home, and now this 50-year mortgage may open that possibility up. But kind of like you said, what is that going to do to our housing market? Are we going to see a huge rush, a huge boom? And then what in turn is that going to do to home prices is where my concern's at.
Yeah. Um, I do think that those are all really valid concerns. I think one of the greatest positives I see out of it, though, is it's really the only thing I can think of that could go about trying to make houses more affordable again. And I know it's not going to make uh, houses dramatically more affordable, but sometimes that small difference in that mortgage payment, if it's the equivalent of the power bill or the grocery bill, that could make a massive difference in people's budgets and how they're going to be able to financially afford to own a home. Uh, I mean, in all honesty, the only other thing I could really see happening that could make housing affordable again for the lower middle class is a market crash, and nobody wants that.
Yeah. Yeah. My concern though is just thinking from the lender perspective, right? The mortgage guy perspective is when we see longer terms on auto loans, it typically comes with higher interest rates. And my concern is that everybody that I see talking about a 50-year mortgage is using the same interest rate offered for a 30-year mortgage. And I would assume just kind of putting my thinking cap on here, that it's going to increase the interest rate available to home buyers. So, and I think this is where it could offset the savings a little bit, in my opinion, because if the going market rate is just say 6% for a 30-year fixed, what is a 50-year fix going to be? Is it going to be 7%? Is it going to be 6.5%? And then does this really take away from that affordability?
Well, I guess another lens you could look at to kind of examine that would be like, what's the interest rate difference in a 15-year mortgage and a 30-year mortgage right now?
It depends. I'd say it could be anywhere from half to 1%. That's kind of why I'm using that rule for what would the 50-year
Yeah,
look like, because the difference between the 15 and the 30 is anywhere from a half to a full percent.
yeah. Um, there's really so many different variables that go into it. It's kind of like the adjustable rate mortgage, like there are some people where that may be a legitimate option for them. Uh, um, for the overwhelming majority of the people, 30-year fix is the right way to go.
Right.
It provides more security. There's just so many advantages to it. With the adjustable rate mortgages, you really just have no idea what's going to happen. But maybe you just have so much equity built up in the property. You're like, whatever, I can refinance to a fixed rate later without really having to suffer and enjoy this couple years. Or especially with military, maybe adjustable rate mortgage might be good for some people if they're stationed somewhere and they know that they're not going to be there long.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how some people are looking at the 50-year. It's a tool in our toolkit as mortgage professionals. Not everyone's going to fit into the box of a 50-year. Not everyone's going to fit into the box of a 30-year. Just like you said, some people may do great with an adjustable rate mortgage versus a fixed rate mortgage. I think it's all about setting expectations for the consumer, because I don't think most consumers really look at what I view to be the downsides. My big concern is just the equity position. Are they going to have enough equity in their home to be able to sell it in the next, 5 to 10 years, or is it something that they're going to be stuck in um, for a long time, right? So this is just what I'm thinking of. Of a lot of people are struggling to build equity right now. How's it going to go? How's it going to go in the future? It could be something that we see a lot of issues with, or it could be really beneficial. But to your point, kind of going back to what you said, which I thought was really good, some people are concerned about, well, that savings is that utility bill or food bill, and they're okay with taking that longer mortgage because it will help them afford the house that they want with their payments, right? So they're not over leveraging themselves, which what I could see is the argument right now with what's going on with 30-year mortgages. A lot of people are having to over leverage themselves just to get into a home, because we've seen home prices dramatically increase, but not wages increase with that.
I actually genuinely feel like the biggest benefit for a lot of for this program is going to be for your lower middle class people that are right on
Mm-hmm.
that cusp and that precipice of being able to get a house, and they just can't get over that hill. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I do think for your, gosh, what would you call it, middle class to upper middle class
Upper middle class,
families?
yeah.
Yeah. I think even though that they're probably having to rebalance things, they're having to constrict their finances a little bit more. They're having to be a little bit more financially structured when it comes to buying a home and fitting that mortgage into your monthly payments. I think for your lower middle class people, gosh, 45 to $60,000 a year, where you're right on that cusp of being able to really get a mortgage payment, and now you really can't because housing prices have gone through the roof.
Hmm.
I mean, this could be a difference maker in you finally being able to paint the walls whatever color you want and have your dog run around the backyard, or get a dog without asking somebody else's permission. You know, the 50-year mortgage could be the difference maker in that for all of those people. And I I do agree with you. It would take significantly longer to start building up equity.
Hmm.
Uh, it might be something where, as realtors, we have to be a little bit more cautious, and say, hey, look, if we got to look for houses longer, that's great. But just making sure that they have an understanding that it is going to take longer for them to build up the equity. Instead of being
Hmm.
able to sell in 3 to 4 years, it might be 7, to 10.
Right.
And at least arming people with the information, but at least having that as an option for people, I think can't be a bad thing.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's just the hard part right there. Is everybody going to set proper expectations? That's a real estate or mortgage professional for their home buyers or home sellers or whatever the case may be. Um, because if someone is having to wait a little bit longer to build that equity and appreciation, the average American is currently in their home for 7 years right now. Is that going to be extended with a new 50-year mortgage? Are people going to sit in their homes for 10 to 12 years? And is this going to be that solution to what we've seen with a housing shortage, or is it going to increase that housing shortage?
Um, I do think there is a likelihood that it could increase the housing shortage.
Hmm.
Um, I really think it depends on how they do that and how they structure it. Because I mean, they have all the metrics. I mean, they can look at loan applications and see how many interested buyers this program is going to allow back into the market.
Hmm.
Um, and we can use the past, gosh, since 2008 to judge, is it going to flood the market, or is it just going to let a couple more buyers in and provide a couple more opportunities for people?
Right. Right. And I thought it was kind of funny. This is something that we were talking about yesterday. I see all these investors really eager for a 50-year mortgage because, right, most people investors are going to hold on to it. They're going to refinance it. And what we kind of joked about was like, well, maybe that will help lower the rental market because, I mean, rental prices have not gone down for consumers just along as well as home prices, I should say. So the joke that we had are investors going to give that extra savings back onto their renters, their tenants, or are they going to cash flow more? What are you kind of seeing in that conversation? Because I'm seeing they're going to take the money and run.
I think they're going to take the money and run.
Yeah.
Rent rates are rent rates, and the only I that's something I would actually have to look into more as far as what things could negatively impact. I say negatively impact rent prices. I guess really it would positively impact rent prices for the consumer, just not for the landlords.
Right.
And to be honest with you, I'm really not sure what those are, but I know that their monthly payment isn't one of the considering factors in what they're going to charge for rent.
Right.
It's what they're going to charge for rent is whatever everybody else is charging for rent. What going rent for that area is, for the square
Hmm.
footage, for the bedrooms, bathrooms, for the area. So, I mean, other than a whole bunch of new landlords coming in and dropping their rents because they don't know, and people having options, I don't really see that as a massive likelihood.
Yeah. It could be one of the things, right, that tips the scale with a 50-year mortgage. 50-year mortgage could push more people into home ownership, creating more vacancies in rentals, and then they would have to adjust to a new market rate because they have a higher vacancy factor, landlords would. Or is it one of the things that they're just pushing people into home ownership and then investors are able to cash flow more and then people just continue to rent and there's no real big difference, right? People always need a place to live. That's kind of the one thing why real estate has been so lucrative and interesting is that people are always going to rent and people are always going to buy. There's just times where it slows down and it speeds up.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think there's a lot of unknowns, but the biggest thing is this even going to get through? Is this even going to become a thing, a 50-year mortgage? I mean, it's just tentative talk right now. So I mean, there's still a lot of unknowns, what ifs, and then my big thing is how is it going to impact and change the lender underwriting guidelines? Is it going to be the exact same for a 30 and a 50? Is there any changes to that? I would assume that there's going to have to be changes to the refinancing laws and the refinancing guidelines that we have to follow, because how is it going to be beneficial to continuously put somebody in a 50-year, because we do have to pass certain fees, points, tests, all that stuff when it comes to a standard 30 or 15-year. How is that going to look like at a 30-year, or excuse me, a 50-year mortgage as well?
I don't know as far as the lending side, like some of those differences between a lot of that stuff you mentioned. Um, you know, us as agents, mostly what we anytime we have people asking us questions, we usually just refer them to a really good lender we may know. Because there's, with the lending side, as you know, because I've called you and asked you questions, and you're like, well, there's so many variables that go into that. And I know that I don't know all the variables. So when it comes to the intricacies of the loan, I usually just send them to a professional.
Yeah. Yeah. This is me just speaking out loud because that's where I'm like, where is that is it gonna change? How is it gonna change? How's it gonna impact people? Um, I think there's just a lot of unknowns with this. I think it could be beneficial for some, but it's probably not going to be beneficial for all, just like any loan program and terms out there,
Yeah.
right? Not everyone should fit into this box. Not everyone will fit into this box. And that's why we have so many different loan programs, loan terms. Like there's over 3,000 different loan programs in America. We're one of the few countries where people can actually get a mortgage to purchase land that has very flexible terms. So there's a lot of good things that could happen with this. The initial knee-jerk reaction that I had is, how is this impacting people's ability to gain equity in their home, pay down their principal, and then the total
Yeah.
interest paid over the life of the loan? It's always funny. So what most people don't know is that we have to disclose how much the bank makes off a 30-year mortgage. And people always freak out. They're like, what is this number
Yep.
here? And so I'm just like, man, if people are freaking out when they see that number on a 30-year, how are they going to react with a 50-year? But we are also in a much different generation, I will say, compared to our parents or grandparents who got a loan, they got a mortgage, they never did anything. It was that mortgage for 30 years and then they paid it off. We are in a generation where it's completely different, I feel like.
Well, realistically, inflation's been around since around like 1913, where it's really just been dramatically escalating and escalating more and more over time. I mean, I feel like our great grandparents had 15-year mortgages, and that was standard. And then,
Hmm.
um, and then the 30-year mortgage came around, and it was in an attempt to make housing more affordable for some of those people right on the cusp. And then it just became the new standard,
Hmm.
and one of my fears about this is that it just becomes the new standard. I mean, my gosh, if you're not buying a house until you're 30 and you're in a 50-year mortgage, I mean, I mean, you're basically just in debt your entire life trying to pay off your house, and there's never like a sense of like, I got that paid off. And I mean, that's what our grandparents did.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, they bought a farmhouse and well, in a lot of the more suburban environments. I mean, they bought an
Hmm.
all little farmhouse and lived in it, paid it off, and just paid their property taxes and homeowners insurance.
Yep.
Uh, and now with the 30-year, I mean, it is getting more. It's becoming, as the baby boomers are passing away and all their 15-year mortgages where they paid the house off a long time ago, um, and the houses are going back on the market and they're being sold into 30-year mortgages. It's becoming more and more a thing where the bank owns all of it,
Yeah.
you know. And it that is one thing that does worry me a little bit about it is. I genuinely, I feel like home ownership is something worth having,
Hmm.
and people genuinely deserve it if they want it. Some people want to rent. Some people are stuck renting, that would love to own a home. Um, and some people want to rent because they don't want to have to fix the roof if it leaks, or the refrigerator if it breaks. So to each their own. But for the people that want it, I feel like they deserve it. Um, and I do think it is unfortunate, but I do really think that the 50-year mortgage is probably going to end up being the only uh, uh, feasible option for some of those entry level people, entry level homeowners, to be able to get their first house.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the benefits can be, a path to ownership for first time home buyers. It could, open up that gateway if people are comfortable with the terms and everything like that. Um, it could be a way for them to stop paying rent if they're comfortable with all the other, I'd say responsibilities that come with home ownership. So there is some benefits to it, but like we mentioned, it's probably not a one size fits all. It's for the right person who's ready
Right.
to stop paying rent, who's ready to get their own little slice of the dream, the American dream that is. And then from there, they can always, I'm sure, more than likely refinance into a 30-year mortgage or a 15-year mortgage. So it is that stepping stone. I think it's just making sure that they know how the program works, how the guidelines are going to be written once they, however that day does come. We can't answer that just yet. And then, if this does come into effect, I do agree with you. I think this will be the standard norm moving forward if it is in effect. Because I just think so many people are going to opt for it. I think a lot of current homeowners probably would refinance into a 50-year mortgage to save on the current monthly payment. I think a lot of new home buyers would go for it to reduce their living expense, like you said, because that could be, part of their grocery bill, utility bill, whatever, to help lower that monthly expense. So there is some pros to it. It's just more so, how is this going to look in terms of the long-term scope of everything? Is it actually beneficial to home buyers? As long as it's not putting them into a worse position, which there's a lot of rules and regulations that prevent that. But I think it's just, how would this look? How do we protect the home buyers? How do we set expectation for the home buyers? And if it is that step from no longer paying somebody else's rent or paying rent and contributing to your own financial future, it could be extremely successful.
No, yeah, I agree. And you know, uh, I, I guess ironic to bring it up on Veterans Day. One of the blessings that we have in this country because of people like you is freedom. And
Hmm.
if this becomes an option out there, I mean, people have the freedom to choose what's best for them, unless the 50-year mortgage is the only one that they qualify for.
Right.
Um, there's a lot of people out there that can't qualify for the 15-year mortgage, so they end up having to do the 30. I'm sure there'll be some overlap similar to that with the 50 and 30, but it'll really be a personal choice for people to decide if it's best for them, and it'll be like anything else in life. They'll have to live with the consequences of it years down the road, and with the positive or negative consequences,
Hmm.
whichever, however the cookie crumbles for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the only thing we can do right now is wait to see, does this come into effect, or is it something that was just a nice little headline to get us all talking about what may happen? But I mean, only time will tell. It seems like this is a big issue right now, is the housing affordability crisis. Not to get all into the politics, but it seems like that's what a big topic is. So we'll see, is this something that helps or hurts our financial housing crisis that we have going on right now for affordability?
Yeah, and I think I think one of the bigger struggles with it, I I I I genuinely, I think it's going to end up rolling out. I know that it's a lot of if, but when the president made that comment about it, or tweet, or whatever it was, uh, about the 50-year mortgage, and then the banking institution came out and was like, "Oh no, we're actually working on it." I think one of the hardest things about it is going to be the rollout of it.
Hmm.
It just like anything else, they're going to roll it out, and something's going to go wrong, and they're going to have to fix it, and it'll be a work in progress over time. And what are the consequences of that work in progress going to be for the American people while they're trying to navigate this and fine tune it and, get the kinks out and make it a smooth process.
Yeah, it's just like anything. There's going to be some growing pains and some learning
Right.
curves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, sweet, man. Well, I think that we covered all of the bases on that one. I think a lot of it is more so paying attention to what's going to happen, what announcements are going to be made, and how, if this does come into play, how is it going to impact future home buyers of America and current home owners in America is the $1 million
Yeah.
question. Josh, anything to add before we wrap this up?
No, I think you just gotta trust people to make if it does roll out, regardless of our opinions about it, I think it really just comes down to trusting people to make the best decisions that they feel like are right for them, and more options hopefully can't be a bad thing.
Absolutely, brother. Well, all right, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. If you like what you're seeing, be sure to subscribe to our channel as we continue to give updates on the 50-year mortgage. Thank you so much.